Hello, everyone. Nick Kypreos here, host of the Real Kyper at Noon show, NHL alumnus, and this week, officially, author of my book that was just released called Undrafted. Thanks for joining me today. As we promised during this off season, we wanted to come up periodically. We've had some great interviews early in this off season with the likes of John Cooper, Stanley Cup champion, head coach. We had Max Domi on. And then today we're going to focus a little bit about my book called Undrafted. Of course, if you look at your YouTube channel and you can see the thumbnail, if you scroll down, there is a link to purchase your copy of this book is right there. Of course, if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do so. And then there's also other links as well. So today we are going to focus a little bit on the book. Of course, there's still news out there happening, and that means we got to find Doug MacLean. He's out there somewhere. He's taking the RV and he's going on this huge trip. And Jordan, Joe, they're in the background right now. I know Jordan's going to come on a little bit later in the show and partake in a little bit of the conversation with Undrafted. But in the meantime, Jordan, go find Doug MacLean. Go find that RV and see if we can get him for 5 minutes. Of course, he was kind enough to donate the forward to my book. And I say donate because I ain't paying him one dime. That's for sure. But he is a big part of this book, and we're going to get into that as well. The other guy that was a big part of this book is a gentleman by the name of Perry Lefko. I've known Perry probably since the mid-'80s, sports reporter for Toronto Sun Media, and now he's branched out to do a number of books. His latest one prior to mine with Eddie Olczyk, Beating the Odds, and it's right here, and it's a fantastic read. Everybody knows who Eddie Olczyk is, and everybody knows the battle that he's been in the last year plus. And it is such a good read, inspirational. Of course, we've had Eddie Olczyk on this show as a guest, and to this day, people are still talking to me about how inspired they were of that conversation. And I urge you, if you are watching for the first time, go and find it. Go down our YouTube channel, alignmovement.com, find it, search it, and it will give you some idea of what Eddie Olczyk went through, and it will make you go race to buy the book, Beating the Odds. I mentioned Perry Lefko because he was a big part of what's happening for me this week with the book Undrafted. I've had maybe a few people in passing, maybe over beers, maybe over a lot of beer, saying, you should write a book. And I'm like, yeah, right. I should write a book. Yeah, good night. But it never really got to the point where just over a year ago, Perry knocked on my door, literally knocked on my door and said, you should write a book. And it took some convincing to do, but I won't get into that now. I asked Perry to join me on today's show, seeing how we are launching Undrafted through Simon & Schuster this week officially. That happened yesterday, or I'm sorry, 2 days ago. October 20th was the official date, but I thought it was important to start today's show with Perry Lefko, the man who convinced me, quite honestly. Is that as simple as it was back then, Perry? Because I've had multiple concussions. I'm not sure what I remember these days.
I'd say that's fairly accurate, but we have to set the record straight. I met you at your golf club and you told me don't wear jeans. So I came wearing a nice shirt, dress pants, and you walked in wearing shorts. I said, Nick, I thought I wasn't allowed to wear jeans. Yeah, but I didn't tell you couldn't wear shorts. So let's get that fact straight right away. Okay.
Yeah,
But I'm happy. I'm really happy for you, Nick, because yeah, I envisioned this project long ago. I believed in your story, and it was just a question of me being able to convince you to see what I saw.
So we've known you over the years as a sports reporter. You've covered everything as far as I know, but hockey was the a big part of it. Just the switch over to writing books now, and where is the appeal for these type of books now, Perry? Where maybe 5 or 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, it wasn't there as much.
Well, I'll just give you a little background. When I was growing up, the two things I wanted to do is I wanted to become a sports writer and I wanted to become a book author. And I've been able to achieve my dreams largely through the help of people such as yourself, Eddie Olczyk, Bret Hart, Doug Flutie. I've been writing books for about 20 years. These are the first two hockey books I've done. And it only happened because I truly knew Eddie and truly knew you. And what I say to other people who want to write books is if you want to write a book, you better know the subject. You better do your research. I had researched you so much before we had that conversation. So it wasn't like I had to say, I know a little bit about you. I knew more about you than probably you knew about yourself.
Oh God, that's scary. Do I have Google to blame for that?
No, you don't have. Let's just say I knew about you as a hockey player, as a broadcaster. We'll leave it at that. What you did in your spare time, that's your golfing, that's your business. Okay. But I like you. I like you a lot, and I say that honestly, just as I
Yeah.
say it to Eddie. You can't do these books without the cooperation of the co-author.
Well, I certainly I got to admit, it certainly helped knowing that someone that I respected so much as a teammate in 1994, Ed Olczyk, that you had already had a book out there already with him. So that was a big thing for me, knowing that if Eddie trusted you, then I could trust you as well. So the obvious thing with Eddie Olczyk is his battle with cancer. No question about that. That is so compelling and so inspiring for anybody that reads that book. But what else did you see in Eddie that you thought for sure this is a story that needs to be told?
Well, to use your expression, as I say in the book, it's about hockey, it's about broadcasting, it's about horse racing, it's about cancer. So it's got multiple appeals to different you know, different sections or whatever, different audiences. So Eddie and I go back to when I was a horse racing reporter with the Toronto Sun in the late 80s. Whenever we did this book, we talked about horse racing, Eddie lit up. He was so animated. So we're talking about cancer and it's very emotional and there's a certain disposition that he has. When it comes to horse racing, it completely changed because he loves horse racing and it comes across in his work. So we had a lot of fun with that. We had a lot of fun. Just I met him in Buffalo one time, Chicago. Just a lot of enjoyable moments about me and him, just as it was like with me and you, where you really get to understand the subject because you're looking at that person face to face. You're reading their animation. You're reading what works. What can we delve on? What can we further expand the story? So it's the same thing with Eddie. It was exactly what I did with you.
Well, and just going through Eddie's book, and again, not to talk down about myself, but here I was going through Eddie's book and knowing that he was a superstar, man. This guy was a can't miss prospect. He was a top pick in the NHL. He was a hometown hero in Chicago. And I'm reading this thing going, Perry, like, what do I got to offer, man? I was not any of that at all. And you still want to write a book about me? Are you nuts?
Because you have to understand and say this to other people in the spotlight, the media spotlight. You don't see yourself as we do. We're looking through this glass mirror at Nick Kypreos, and we're so fascinated by it. But as I said before, Eddie's story and your story are completely different. The common denominator is you both are inspiring people. You both were hockey players who turned broadcasters and did it very well. So hockey is so important in Canada. This is the fall season. Everybody's coming in with hockey books. Everybody saw you on Hockey Night in Canada. Your story about a person who wasn't drafted, who played 8 years in the NHL, then became a broadcaster, actually got fired the first year, but you worked really hard. You got the trust of Scott Moore, and you became 20 years as a broadcaster working for Hockey Night in Canada. if that's not an inspiring story, I really don't know what is. So again, every story is different. It's basically how you look at it. It's like looking at a painting. Four people are going to look at it and have four different opinions about what they're seeing. So that's why when I approach a person about doing a book, I say, you have to see it from my point of view and how others look at you, not what you think of yourself.
You forgot to mention the Olympics and 27 million people watching the gold medal game. You throw that in if
Nick,
you're going to mention
you're
Hockey Night in Canada.
a fascinating person. Can I talk about Little Buddha as well? Because I
No,
think
not
that
yet.
is tremendous. Okay,
No,
we'll hold off on that.
not
Right?
yet. Not yet. Just now going through the process, and I will say that as a 50 at the last year, 53 years, I'm a 53-year-old. It was really special for me, Perry, to be able to sit down with you, with my parents, both of them still living, still, doing well. My dad battled the last few years with multiple surgeries, but overall, it was just so special for me to sit down and hear their story all over again, their childhood to my childhood. So I'll ask you, what did you take out of my meeting my parents?
What I understood right then and there is you get your energy, your enthusiasm, your personality, your laugh from them. They were just wonderful people. Same thing with Eddie when I got to meet his parents. So that's where the story begins, and I get to understand what these people are about. Why they got into hockey, why they got their son into hockey. So every nuance of the book begins with how you grew up, and they gave me just some tremendous anecdotes. The story about you biting everybody at the age of
Ugh.
3. It was just so much fun talking to them. I really enjoyed their company. And again, if I needed any convincing about your background, how you grew up, who were the influences in your life, I saw it right then and there. They're just tremendously enjoyable people. I really enjoyed the opportunity to talk to them.
Well, and I try to articulate the best I could about growing up in a country that is a melting pot, and for both my parents from Greece, that the only ice they knew were in a drink. It was a great experience discovering the game of hockey almost together with them. And my dad's first introduction to hockey before I was born, and then in those early years, watching him play hockey or watching him watch hockey while I played early. Those are my best memories as a kid growing up, and I thank you for kind of capturing that in the book.
Well, when your father talked about his discovery of hockey, how he would buy, pay $2 for a standing room only to be like 5 or 6 deep, standing outside, hearing the roar of the crowd, like when he's just going to work.
Yeah.
Those are images. They're really powerful, and that's the love that he had for hockey. And you decided to play hockey. You wouldn't have been able to get very far in your hockey career without the support of your parents. I think that's probably true of anybody in any respect. My parents supported me in my decision to be a writer, to become a journalist. If you don't have that support in the background, it's going to be very hard to move forward.
Well, you've done a great job already. It's Undrafted, that was just released this week. Of course, Eddie Olchuk, also a Perry Lefko, a written book. I do believe that if you go to any online link, you can buy both those books and save the
Amazon,
shipping, right?
Amazon Canada, go to any bookstore. Yeah, you'll find those books. And as I said to you all along, Nick, your book will be a bestseller. It's going to be number one. It's going to move up the charts. You just have to believe it's in the pocket.
You're worse than Don King, for goodness sakes. Remember that
I pro-
boxing promoter?
The Lion King. Yeah, I remember him very well. But I'm going to
Yes.
promote you every single day because you're worth it. And again, not to belabor the point, but I enjoyed the opportunity and the trust that you put in me.
Okay, I'm going to give you something very valuable to anybody, and that's just like an open slot here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Anything you want to promote, anything you want to talk about, your next projects, um, Little Buddha, where do you want to go?
First thing I want to say is to anybody listening, you better believe in yourself because no one's going to believe in you more than you. If you want to do something, you want to achieve your dreams, you got to believe in it and believe in yourself. I believed in this book. I believe in Little Buddha because Little Buddha is it's the perfect thing. Something to drink and read while you're reading the book. Drink and think. It'll work. And Eddie's book, and anybody who wants to work with me in a future project, because Nick, you said you would encourage other people to do the same thing, to find out what you didn't know about your life and to be able to capture it after a certain point in time when you can look back as opposed to living in the moment.
Wow. Now I'm serious. If you can promote my book that well, can I hire you for Little Buddha Cocktail Company?
I won't do it for you. We'll do it for Anne Marie. Okay. Because Anne Marie was a big part of this book as well. So let's put it out there.
Yeah.
She helped with the editing. She's just very enthusiastic. I think the world of your family, and like I said, I encourage anybody to buy this book. If you want inspiration, this book will give it to you.
And just to add to Perry's comments, my wife Anne Marie, who graduated with a journalism degree out of University of Florida, was able to help me really uh, put the words that I was trying to capture on paper here in Undrafted, and she really helped me shape up the message that I wanted to come across. So kudos to my wife, Perry. I
One
can't
last
thank
thing.
you
One last
enough.
thing. I just want to put in a plug for Kevin Hansen and
Yes,
for Jordan, or sorry, Jordan,
yes.
Justin
Justin Stoller.
for the fine work and the trust that they had in this project when I approached them
Yeah.
with it. So the end result speaks for
So
itself.
just, just on that note, okay. I think we talked about you finding a publisher, and you just didn't find any publisher, man. You brought me the New York Yankees, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to disappoint Simon and Schuster, for God's sakes. They're the big shooters in all of this.
Well, I had done a book with Justin when it was at Penguin. It just so happened I called up. He picked up the phone. He had just started working at Simon and Schuster. It's serendipity at its finest. You got to meet, um, you got to meet the publisher, Kevin. Kevin's a very bright thinker. He said right away, undrafted. Like that's the way he thinks. I have a word, and I'm going to go with that, and that's what it's going to be. You were really given the carte blanche. You were given the Cadillac of service from a really top publishing company.
Well, my first thought was looking back at my career and how kind of blind I was at times, that it felt like it was more all Greek to me.
Well, that would have been an interesting title, but at the end of the day, Kevin found a different title, and it worked, and it does work.
Perry, Lefko, can't thank you enough for joining me, and good luck to you and both of us with this week's launch of Undrafted, and good luck with many, many more books, I'm sure, that are going to fall in your lap now with the success of Eddie Olchuk's beating the odds, and hopefully mine soon.
It's in the pocket. I told you that a long time ago.
Perry Lefko, everybody. Thank you, Perry.
Be well. Thanks, man.
Wow. Yeah, it's that process with Perry took a good 12, 13 months to do. So Perry would come over to the house usually on a Sunday, and we'd spend 2, 3 hours, and you just start shooting the shit. That's what you do. And there's other people that may decide how they want to thread those stories, but it was my job just to start pushing them out. So it's an amazing process to take 12 months and pack it in 300 pages. But here it is, and I'm glad it's over, and I'm glad that everybody can sit there and read it and enjoy it, hopefully, and take hopefully whatever you can out of it. And I hope it's inspiration at the most. We've got also the forward of the book. I ran out of people to ask, so I asked Doug MacLean to do it. Okay, you hear that? Means he's we haven't found him yet.
Well, I was waiting. I was a little caught off guard when Perry gave me a nice little shout out. I would also like to echo his sentiments by saying big thanks to Jordan because, gotta be self-serving over here. So yeah, Doug's waiting. We're gonna add him to the call right now. Doug is on location, actually, so very kind of him to.
Where did you find him, and where is the RV, Jordan?
I've heard it's in the great state of Ohio, in between Dayton and Columbus. I don't know. I don't actually know the geography of Ohio that succinctly, but I'm going to add Doug to the call right now. He should be getting a call on his cell phone as we speak. I will get him on in here when we can. But yeah, that was a fun time, man. It's interesting to see what everyone is like from that perspective, like how they view it, right? Like when we started working on the show together, I knew you from the Rangers Stanley Cup, right? I grew up a Rangers fan. My dad had memorabilia. I have a plaque with the whole squad on it. I didn't know you were on it, but once I saw it, I looked it up and I was like, yeah, that's Nick right there. So it's great just to see everyone's different perspectives and how that kind of reflects in storytelling. I'm really interested in that sort of thing overall.
Well, and that's just the basic story in itself, that we all wish we were the Mark Messiers and the Brian Leaches and the Mike Richters of the world, and those are truly household names. And then there's the rest of us that have to find a way to get there, Jordan, and find a way to make a name for yourself that isn't exactly a household name at that current moment. So I was able to be a small piece in a very, very big on a very big puzzle that got completed in '94, and I try to take and make the most of it, including a few appearances in New York City, like the MTV Beach House in the Hamptons.
And what a beach house that was, man. I mean, could you imagine what that would be like right now, sans COVID? I mean, when I grew up, I was watching Spring Break on MTV. I was like, that's what I want to do when I want to be one of those guys with the microphone telling you, direct the Super Soakers that direction. It didn't happen. Alas, I'm here with you instead. We have Doug coming up. He should be getting a call. I'm not sure if he is. Joe, if you're out there, if you're listening, if you could try to add him to the call, that would be great. Joe had a little bit of another meeting to get to today. Other than that, I was thinking I could tee up a couple lines from the forward from Doug as a little preview to have him join the program. The last line, it says, just joking, right? And I think in a lot of ways that categorizes and really talks about what your relationship is, right? People that may not know you might think that you are this way on the air, but then when that clock turns 12, you go back to the Cinderella pumpkin and just start yelling at each other. But it's not like that way, right? It really is fun and games pretty much 24/7 with you two.
Well, first of all, when he says just joking, there's always going to be that little bit of part where he's not joking. So when he says that he thinks that I helped him or he helped me, that's when it kind of gets a little dicey. But no, all kidding aside, Doug and I have had a really good relationship, and it really stemmed from my rookie year with the Washington Capitals. He was with Brian Murray in Washington. I got claimed off of waivers by the Capitals. And, Doug will speak to this too as well. As an associate coach, you got to be very careful with forming relationships. Of course, your alliance and your loyalty go to your head coach. So there wasn't a ton of communication other than maybe breaking down some tape. It was always professional, but it never really ended up being a personal relationship until I went down to Baltimore to spend some time, and Doug had already been assigned the head coaching job with the Baltimore Skipjacks. And that's when we started to really get to know each other. So it was one of those relationships where long after our time together in Washington and in Baltimore, that he went on to much greater things. Of course, the Florida Panthers, a Stanley Cup final, and then the Columbus Blue Jackets for, I guess, close to 10 years, if not more. And as a broadcaster, of course, you do tend to right away go to your contacts and the people that you've had relationships in the past and try to get as much information as you can as a broadcaster. And that's what I did. And Doug was one of those guys where I had him on speed dial and I would bug the crap out of him. And he was really good with at least acknowledging when he could speak to me and when he couldn't. And I'm sure he'll talk about me being a pain in the ass, but I guess that's what you got to do.
Well, I guess
once you have a
outside
job.
of that, that should be the book, the sequel. Pain in the ass. Yeah, right. All right, so we have Doug ready. I'm gonna put a quick sizzler on the board. Kyper, Michael is over there, so tell Michael to answer the new Discord call that I send him. I'm gonna add Doug in, and we should be right back after this ice melts.
Michael, add the new Discord.
And Kyper, we're back here. We got Doug here. And
perfect guy.
Doug, if you could turn your phone sideways, that would be great.
No, I like him. I like him hanging on the wall. That's what I do. Stay there.
I'm sideways.
Stay there.
Sideways.
Can you pretend you're climbing up the wall like Batman?
That could be good. That's good content, Doug. I think that we should explore this a little bit deeper. Thanks for bearing with us on getting Doug in here. And Doug, thank you so much for taking the time out of your trip to come hang out with us. And what's with the decor? You already have the great Orr jersey behind you. You're ready to go. I love it.
Hey, got the 1976 MVP Team Canada jersey behind me. How cool is that? Seriously.
It's like you haven't even left a PEI with the jerseys.
I bring my memorabilia with me on the road, man.
You know how I know you're not home? There's no 7-cent wire hanger holding up Bobby Orr's jersey right now.
That's right. You know exactly. I'm in a buddy's office, so it's pretty cool. But I got the Phil Esposito, Bobby Orr pictures on one side. I got obviously a big Boston fan. So anyway, I made it. I'm here.
So how the hell are you?
Well, you know what? We've been on the road for a week and a half and did touring a few wineries and just trying to live life, and it's been good. We're in Columbus, Ohio, heading to Cincinnati tomorrow. Then we'll head out to Denver, Colorado, and into the mountains. So looking forward to it.
When I eventually pass, can I come back in my next life as you?
Hey, I paid my dues, man. I deserve this. Well, no, Jill's paid her dues. She deserves it.
She's paid her dues. So I don't know if anyone's told you this, but I got a book out.
Look, seriously, every time I pick up a newspaper, there's a story on you, and then I'm vaguely mentioned in the background. Oh, yeah, Doug MacLean's helping him with the show.
Okay,
congratulations. I mean, I like it. I like it.
You know what?
I haven't read it yet, but I just got a copy, and I'm very excited to delve into it and read all about you. I mean, between you and Brian Burke, I've had pretty well enough of the books right now.
It's been crazy. I got to be completely honest here. I did not expect this bit of a whirlwind of media, and I've played hockey, I've broadcast, and even if I've broken some of the biggest trades in the last 20 years, like PK Subban, I've never got the attention that I've gotten lately. And that's just a flat out lie because I pick up the Toronto Sun, and Bruce Garriott wrote an amazing story about Real Kyper at noon. And there you are, 2-pager. And it's all nothing but Doug MacLean.
Garriott knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. So I thought it was a pretty impressive article. I got it. Kathy Broderick, the famous Don Cherry expert and co-worker with Grapes, sent me the article yesterday. So I was very excited to read it.
Well, good. So
hey, the book is getting some great reviews. I'm anxious for Steve Simmons to critique it. I saw him critique a few other books recently, so I haven't seen his critique of it yet, but I'm sure it's forthcoming, and I'm looking forward to it. But I am looking forward to reading it, and obviously the foreword written by myself has sort of garnered a fair amount of attention.
I will. I want to get to the forward in just a second, but
I forget what I said at this point. I forget what I even said in it. So anyway,
there is a good Steve Simmons story in there that also involved Pierre Maguire.
Oh,
and
good.
It was around
you mean the finalist, Pierre, the finalist?
Yes, the finalist.
Yes, okay.
Who's he's going to get a job soon one day. I know that. It's just a matter of time. Mac, there's an interesting story where Steve and I were judges for what is now called the Canadian Screen Awards.
Wow.
And we both got involved in voting what should have been like an entertainment portion of their awards show on, I don't know, lifestyle or movies or something. And it ended up, we ended up voting for top sportscaster of the year. And who's involved in that? Pierre Maguire.
And you voted for him? No. Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay, good. That makes me feel a little better.
Listen, read the book and then we'll bring it up on another day.
Okay, I want to read the book. Right?
It's got a few twists and turns to that.
If Jill would if Jill would take over the wheel of the RV once in a while, I would go back and lay down and read, but I'm too busy.
All right. Now, you weren't on the air when I said that I looked for a lot of people to write my forward and I couldn't find anybody. So I appreciate it, but I particularly like the first basic line of it, where you really kind of talk about that people gave you the understanding that I didn't like you, correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Or you didn't like me, one of the two.
Yeah, that we hated each other. That
yes.
We absolutely hated each other. And I'd go into a bar in Toronto and they'd say, how can you stand this guy? I mean, you guys hate each other. It was so hilarious. It was unbelievable.
Well, the one thing that I think I prided myself on as a broadcaster is to find people that don't agree with you or have a different vision or a different look, or who, I'd never admit it, but could teach me something that I didn't know. Yeah. So there's no doubt I did a lot of that. The last thing you want is for two or three people on a panel and all three of them go, I agree, and I agree.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of that. But you were such a kiss up to the players in the lockout. It was sickening to listen to be quite honest. And of course, I was trying to give the owners perspective. The way you kissed up to the players was hard in the head at times.
Listen, I had vomit in my throat listening to you suck up to the owners, right?
But why the hell did I suck up to them? None of them ever helped me. Well,
seriously. You didn't know that at the time. You were still looking for a job, especially during the 2004 lockout.
I'll tell you what, you ruined my career because you made me talk too much. And all it did is hurt me, because I was giving my opinions and it crushed my career. Thank God you got me a decent raise at Sportsnet to be able to get through, a tough few years.
I did vouch for you when you left Columbus, and I still don't know, and I didn't really get into my book whether or not I regretted that or not.
Yes, and of course Bob McCowan likes to take credit for getting me to Sportsnet too, but I know who got me there.
Was there any part of you during your time in management that you said, I'd like to get into television?
You know what? As a
No.
matter of fact, it was funny. Oh, I'm telling you, no, when things were really bad at the end in Columbus, I remember sitting with my CFO and saying, you know, I could probably just go away and do some TV and have a pretty good life instead of this aggravation. As Jill has said to me, we're in Columbus right now. And she said, you know, we were in Columbus for over 10 years. And she said, you know, from the start of the franchise, and she said, do you know how much she'd bring up something we did with the kids? And I'm thinking, I don't remember that. And she said, you don't remember those 10 years at all because you missed our family growing up. She's not totally wrong. You get so engulfed in this business of hockey that it is, you know what? And she used to drag me to Mackenzie's soccer games and drag me to Clark's hockey games. And thank God she did that. Anyway,
you know, it's still hard. And my wife's like yours, where it's like, oh my God, it's just hockey, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
You're not curing cancer and you're not splitting the atom. It's hockey. But for guys like me and you and anyone else to get to a certain level, you almost, I say almost, have to live and breathe it, Mac.
Oh, big time. Big time.
24 hours a day.
It is all engaging. And I'm telling you what, when you're a player, you've got to do that. When I was in management and coaching, I'm sorry. I remember thinking, going on my way to a game thinking, geez, if we could just win tonight. If we could just win tonight, I could relax raking leaves tomorrow. You know, if we lose, I don't want to go out and rake leaves, you know? So it was all encompassing. And I mean, you'd never give it up. But, you know, you'd never say, hey, I wish I didn't do that. It was a blast. 22 years in the NHL for me was a complete blast. And then 10 years in media was equally as fun. Not quite the same pressure, you know? Not quite the same pressure.
I remember early in a meeting with you, and we've got kid producers, and we met some great kids along the way. Matt Green.
Yeah.
And they're great kids, but
Matty Markstrom. I mean, just great
Matt
people.
Markstrom,
Great people.
Bob Torrance,
Buckles, Bobby T.
And they're great kids, but they're also kids, and they're just out of school. And of course, you know, the networks can pay these guys like, you know, $30,000 a year, which is a great startup, I guess, at the time, and more about the opportunity. But I remember, you know, a couple of those kids just giving instruction to you. And I looked over to you and you said to me, you know, I used to have access to a private jet. And now I've got this. I've got a 30-year-old kid telling me what to do and say.
Exactly. Yes. And as I said, the biggest thing I missed from my days in the NHL was the use of that private jet. That's really that and the paycheck are really the only two things. But I'll never forget this. I'm driving to Kentucky to watch an American Hockey League game. And my first year in Columbus, and my owner, before we started to play, I was just out scouting. My owner phones me. He said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm on my way to Kentucky to watch a minor pro game." And he said, "Don't you ever do that again. That's a waste of time. You take my jet." And I'm thinking, and then I find out he's got 3 jets. So you know what? It was a nice treat, you know. So I do miss it.
And the next time you needed to leave somewhere, you went eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Nice problem
I went
to
from
have.
a private jet to doing TV using Uber.
In my book,
it's the story of my life.
In my book, available in any bookstore, I talk about early in my Washington career and getting picked up off of waivers and joining the NHL for the first time, legitimate NHL franchise during the regular season. I never experienced that with the Flyer organization. What do you remember about that team in 89, 90? I remember going to a team with stars, Rod Langway, star, Scott Stevens, star, Dino Ciccarelli, star, And then there was a couple of us, me, Rob Murray, Robin Bow Wow, and just we don't know whether we're going to last 30 seconds or the next, 30 years. We have no idea where we're gonna end up here. What do you remember?
Well, you know what is funny? You mentioned Rod Langway, and I remember getting a drive with Rod. I was making $60,000 a year as assistant coach. Rod Langway was making $450,000, which was a ton of money in those days.
Highest paid, one of the highest paid.
And I remember Rod saying, "Jump into my Porsche. I'll take you over to the." Remember, he had the bar, and we were all going over there for lunch. So I jump in the back. I jump in his Porsche, and I look in the back seat. And he's got 24 beer on ice in the back of his Porsche. I mean, okay. So anyway, Rod.
That's the way it was back then. We don't recommend that anymore.
Hey, I'll never forget Mike Gardner. What an athlete Mike Gardner was. Like, Mike Gardner was one of the purest athletes, talent, great skater. I remember doing the fitness test with him. And so I'm counting the dips as assistant coach. So he goes 25, 26 dips, 27, 28, and then he jumps. Then he goes 29 dips, and then he jumps off the bar. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "I did 28 last year, one more this year for my fitness test. That's all I have to do." And I think, "Oh, okay, Mike, way to go, Garch. You'll get your 50." Anyway, we had they were a great group of guys. I mean, you think back, Brian Murray was coach of that team for a long time, and there was a great relationship between Brian and the players. And you talked about the star power. But there was a lot of, imagine a defense with Scott Stevens, Rod Langway, and Larry Murphy, and Kevin Hatcher. That was our defense on that hockey team, Nick. How good a blue line. And then you had Grant Ledger come in as a number 5 guy. To think of that blue line, Stevens, Langway, Hatcher.
The Caps were deep for a long, Mac, they were deep for a long time. And we were fortunate enough to get to a Final Four for the first time, a conference final. We got swept by Boston, but what an experience that was.
Now, I remember I talked all the stars, and then there was Ike Corvo, you, Leach, and that group.
Rob Murray.
Rob Murray was a terrific guy.
Bill Holder.
Billy Holder was a solid defenseman. So it was a real good group of guys.
A young Olaf Kolzik, who was my first roommate, Mac.
Listen, we're at the draft. Brian Murray and I are sitting at the draft table. Jack Button and David Poyle are running the draft. With the first selection of the Washington Capitals, we select Ole Kolzik. Goaltending was a real issue with Washington at that time. We were struggling. Bob Mason was in for a while. Pete Peters was there. So we draft Ole Kolzik in the first round, and we're pretty excited. A big goaltender. The second round pick, we take Byron Defoe. And Brian Murray looks over at me. He said, "Are you shitting me? We just lost confidence in our first pick already." So I said, "Oh my God, we get Ole in the first round and we take Byron Defoe in the second." Both of them turned out to be real good NHL goalies.
Good careers.
But anyway, it was priceless to be around that group. And I was like a 32-year-old assistant coach, or 33 at the time. And it was like, oh my God, it was a fun time to work with Brian and to be around those stars and, good people. It was fun.
And I do speak about going down to Baltimore at the time. They had made a coaching change, which, Mac, to this day is so bizarre that one brother replaces a fired brother.
And didn't know.
From Brian Murray to Terry Murray, the craziest idea I think I've ever heard of, but David Poyle wanted to do it.
It was unbelievable. Terry was coaching Baltimore and Brian was coaching in Washington. I was the assistant. And I lived that. I was in the middle of that. And they make the change. And Brian didn't, when Brian was fired, he did not know Terry was getting the job. And it was crazy. Then I end up going down to Baltimore. And
I never did ask you, did they ask you to stay on in Washington? Did you have a choice, or how did that work?
They said, "You're going to Baltimore." I said, oh, okay, great. I'd rather do that than go home. And you know what was the greatest thing about that is I went down and coached the second half of the season in Baltimore in the American League, and Brian Murray came to just about every game. And Brian and I would go out after the games, and he would talk about, my coaching. And, it was just a great, great experience. We had a good run. We had some great kids in Baltimore. And I remember flying to coach the first game in Springfield. And Doug Wickenheiser and I both flew together to the game. Wick was sent down to Baltimore, and we both flew to Springfield together. And Timmy Berglund, do you remember Timmy was a
Yes.
important guy on that team? I mean, there were just some really good, solid guys. Steve Seftel, obviously, he wrote a book. I did his. I'm big with the forwards. I did Steve Seftel's book.
Show me your pen. Show me your pen. Show me your pen.
McCarthy Consulting. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of it.
Doug, I'm sorry, Doug. I thought that was Kyper. I thought it was Kyper.
Show me your pen. Doug, show me the pen in your hand. Show me the pen in your hand. Okay. I got in shit right now because I hear Jordan in the background going, stop clicking your pen. Stop clicking your pen. And
I
I'm
said
like,
it twice. That's it.
Just a minute. This is a box of pens that
Click them all. Click them all, Doug. Click them all.
You're like a kid now.
Look at the pens I have. Look at the pens I have. My buddy's consulting company.
Get them out of your hand. Get them out of your hand. I want to speak, because I do touch on this in the book, Mac. I want to speak to when I went back down to Baltimore. I had a bit of a tough time. I had surgery to remove some staples from my knee.
Yep.
And I came into your office, and we had spent more time in your office than we did for months with the Washington Capitals. And just you mentioned a lot of names in Baltimore, and to a man, oh, look at all those pens, man. That's nuts. I'm just seeing a delayed video of you with the pens. But to a man, all of us, Mac, spoke of how at least approachable you were and personal you made it for us. And you instilled confidence in me to be, while I was there, one of your leaders, but to get me back with the Washington Capitals as quick as you could. And that happened during the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Well, it's funny. I remember you coming in the office and you were down, like, because you were frustrated about being sent down. And I'm thinking, this guy's a pretty good player that's sitting here with me right now. And I basically tried to tell you, if I'm not mistaken, you were 23, 24 maybe at the time. Would you have been that old?
23.
And I remember saying to you, hey, you're gonna get back. You're gonna get back. They really like you. You're gonna get back. So it was sort of a pump up thing. And then I remember in the playoffs how well you played for us. I mean, you played unbelievably well. Then we're going into the series, the finals of the division finals against Rochester, and I'm on the ice for the morning skate, and I get a call from the Caps saying, we're bringing up Bob Mason, my number one goalie, and you. And I'm thinking, those sons of bitches.
They just cost you Calder Cup.
I said, I'm so excited about Kyper and Bob getting called up, but I am not happy that I'm losing them. That was the morning skate of our game one against Rochester, if you remember. And you went up and then never played another game in the minors. So as exciting as it was for you, it wasn't the biggest day of my career,
Yeah, and we had a good group.
We had a good team.
John Purvis, I remember. Steve Maltez.
Timmy Taylor. Timmy Taylor scored 27, 28 goals that year.
Mike Richard was a big scorer.
Yeah.
We had some we had some fun times there too.
Big time talent. What about my favorite defenseman, Chris Felix? I didn't have an assistant coach, so what I'd do is I'd have the forwards in one end. I'd say, okay, Chris, you take the D down at the other end and do some of those Dave King drills with the defense, because he had played with Team Canada before.
Okay.
Remember Brian Tutt? Do you remember Brian Tutt?
Tall, lanky, left shot defenseman.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. So we had some great times. It was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mark Ferner too. Remember
Mark Ferner? Was he a battler? Mark Ferner was a battler. Yeah, he was. Jeff Greenlaw.
Really good times. Okay, listen. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk at least a couple of the things that are going on right now off season. I know everybody watching right now want to hear from Doug on Joe Thornton signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mac, I've gone on record already with various media outlets that I've talked to. It's funny, you pitch a book or a cocktail, Little Buddha, but they all want to know about Joe Thornton in Toronto. So I've said, Mac, if he can stay healthy, if they can keep those knees super glued, they might be able to squeeze something out of him. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, it caught me really off guard because you've got Spezza already, and I don't know if there's room for both of them. And I love Joe Thornton. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I love everything about him. I don't know where he's going to play. Is he going to be on the fourth line? Probably. They want Kerfoot to play with Vasey. Like, give me a break. If I got to watch Kerfoot and Vasey, that may drive me over the top. But now Joe Thornton, is he going to play with Spezza? We know he's going to want some power play time. I worry about Joe. I watched him a lot last year. I worried about him getting through the neutral zone. If he gets the puck in the offensive zone, he can make plays. We know that. He's a great passer, thinks the game, quality through and through. The speed coming through the neutral zone is really tough in the regular season on him. I don't know if he's going to be able to get there and get it done. And to have both of them there, it's really confusing to me. They said they wanted to be a tougher team to play against, and I look at the guys they've signed, and I'm thinking, I know, they signed Simmons, and I know he was a tough guy, but Simmons is even having a tough time playing now in today's game. So I'm sorry, Brody. I'm not a fan of Brody.
Well, Brody. He's not the first guy you think about when you hear Kyle Dubas's comments that we got to be tougher to play against. That's not him.
That's the opposite of him. I mean, he was good with Giordano, but he started to slip even last year with Giordano. His point production dropped off. Defensively, he's not there a lot of nights. And to get $5 million for 4 years, that one caught me off guard totally. Now, look, he's better. He's better than what they had. But don't anybody tell me. For me, I look at a guy, is he an NHL regular? Is he an impact player? Or is he a franchise player? To me, he's an NHL regular at this stage in his career. That's what he is, an NHL regular. But to think he's going to turn this blue line around, and Zach Bogosian, I like Zach Bogosian at $1 million. Zach Bogosian was a healthy scratch in the playoffs some nights. He did play well. He was with Hedman some. He did play well. But, I look at this team, and I'm trying to think, did they really improve? I hope Joe comes in and he's a star and helps them. I really hope that. But I look at the group they've signed, and I'm thinking, I don't know if they're any better, Nick. They're certainly no harder to play against.
I look at Brody, and I think the reason for the 4-year deal, Mac, is to possibly have him slide into that spot if Morgan Riley leaves after next season. He's got 1 year left. He's going to have to, he's looking for a new contract. If he outprices himself with the Toronto Maple Leafs, then Brody's $5 million replaces him. That's the way I see the tea leaves here for that blue line.
And that I'm sorry, I love Morgan Riley. To me, Morgan Riley is an impact player in the NHL, moving towards a very, very high-end guy. But Brody will not take his place, I'm sorry. And look, this is with all due respect to Brody. This guy's had a good career. This guy's had a good career in Calgary. And he's still, 30? But I'm worried about the slippage in his game. And I'm worried about his slippage in his defensive game. And I hope I'm wrong, but I have certainly not been excited about their signings. I have not been. As a matter of fact, I think back to Shanahan and Dubas saying we're going to be tougher to play against, and I don't think they accomplished that, in my opinion, but we'll see.
Okay, Ottawa fans are excited. They're looking at not only top picks coming in, but some significant signing free agents here. And is it Eugene Melnyk getting off his wallet, or Eugene forced to spend money?
to get to the cap, to get to the floor.
To get to the floor.
Look, I like what Ottawa has done. Obviously, it starts with the draft, and they had an exceptional draft according to all the junior experts. So the draft is a given. And then I watched them, picking up Murray and giving him a big deal. We know Murray's coming off subpar year. We know that, but you know what? Murray to me was a pretty good gamble, pretty good signing. Here's the Davidoff from Florida was a great signing. They had to overpay him. I talked to people that said, yeah, they had to overpay him.
$5 million is. I don't think it's overpaying at $5 million.
No, it isn't in today. $5 million in today's marketplace is a little bit of a stretch compared to where a lot of guys came in, but not a year ago. It's a hell of a deal.
I'll tell you why it's a stretch. Because they want to eliminate the middle. They don't like $5 million. They like $10 million, or they like $750,000. But you
right.
look so now. You look at a guy like Hoffman. Hoffman is a 35 goal scorer over 82 games. He scored, I think, 29, and he probably had 15 games to go. So he is a 30 goal scorer. The best offer that he's getting out there right now is probably about $3 million. They don't want to spend $5 on him.
Well, that's why I'm saying Davidoff. But look, I like Davidoff, and I like the signing. So here's what I think is the challenge here. You've got Davidoff and you got Kocur, two real good first-line players. They need a centerman to play with these guys, and Chris Tierney's not going to get it done for me. So there's a big hole at center ice with the Ottawa Senators. So you bring in these two guys. Listen, Davidoff played with Barkov. I mean, pretty good centerman. So now you've got to find a centerman to play with these guys. But I like what Ottawa did. I really do. They're at the floor essentially. They've got a couple more guys to sign of their own players. But I'm thinking there's a big hole down the middle when you got two players like Kocur and Davidoff right now that to me are top notch. So I like what they did.
Okay. Vancouver fans, it must feel like a kick in the groin with a speed skate, losing Markstrom to Calgary.
Oh, my God. Like, this is the guy that got them in the playoffs. I know Pettersson. I know Hughes. I know Besser. I know Horvat. I mean, unbelievably great young players, but Markstrom was that good. And to lose him is one thing. But to lose them to the Calgary Flames, your biggest rival, and to lose Tanev to them, I mean, so look, but here's the problem. Here's the challenge. You've got Beagle, Roussel, Eriksson on just what you talked about, Nick. They're making $3+ million. There's $12 million tied up in those guys. And that's a real bind for them right now. Then it's like you going to the prom and a 10 come up and say you're by yourself and a 10 comes up and say, "Would you take me home?" That's what happened to the Vancouver Canucks when they went to the prom and Nate Schmidt said, "Will you take me home?" Or Kelly McCrimmon did. So that is like the best 10 you can get when you pick up, you pick up Nate Schmidt. My damn phone, they got me upside down. Nate Schmidt gets picked up.
Look,
I mean, for a third-round pick.
You're so excited you lost your camera. Okay. And by the way,
but seriously,
sometimes you got to come to the realization that you don't wait for the 10. You do what you used to do and go home with 3 threes.
Exactly.
And a 1.
So, and then you get Holtby, who, look, coming off a subpar season, and Holtby, you get him at 4-3 for a couple of years. He's a character guy. He's a team-first guy. But still, to me, they've got a cap issue. I really believe they'd like to bring Hamonic in and to settle, to be a veteran with their back end. But and I think Hamonic wants to go there. I don't think they've got the money to get Hamonic done. That's the problem. And you get into these cap issues, it makes it really challenging. So they lucked out on Schmidt. I like Holtby. It might be I'm not sure that the kid is ready in goal, but let's hope he is. But This is,
Yeah.
I still think they're going to be an exciting team to watch. And Calgary, as you said, Nick, Calgary may be the most improved team in Canada right now. They may be, Calgary, with Tanev and Markstrom.
Holtby's got a lot
And then
to
there's
prove.
Edmonton.
Holtby's got a lot to prove. Even prior, Mac, the year they won the Stanley Cup, leading into those playoffs, he didn't even start the playoffs, and he hasn't had a couple of good regular seasons in a while now, you know?
And you know what? They need him to have a big regular season, because look, it's not going to be easy to make the playoffs.
That's right.
Even as good a run as Vancouver had, with losing Markstrom and Tanev, and I love Schmidt, by the way. I think he's I think this guy has a chance to be a very, very, he's a good defenseman. I think he can go to a whole nother level with the way he moves the puck and skates and character and team positive, or teammates love him. This is a great pickup. So I just hope he, and Demko can get it done in goal, and the kids will continue to improve. And I love watching Vancouver play.
The biggest one for me, the biggest surprise, is Edmonton bringing back Mike Smith at $2 million. And I just feel the pressure on him now. And if he has a bad game or a bad week, I don't know how patient those fans are going to be on Mike Smith this time around.
I feel for Kenny. I mean, obviously they tried to take a run at Markstrom. I got to believe they did.
They had $5 million times 7 on the table for him, and took the 6-6.
And look, here's the challenge. We know that Edmonton have 3 great players. We know that. And I'm sorry though, you still got to keep building there, and not to get Markstrom. So if you took the 26 goalies that play in the KHL and you threw a dart at the wall and it hit one of the 26, that person may be as good as Mike Smith or better. I don't get this signing. I'm sorry. And Mike Smith has had a wonderful career. He's a character guy. But I would be nervous with Smith and Koskinen going into the season with McDavid, Draisaitl. Look.
Well, they got to leave some money
not
here.
To mention, and we don't know Klefbom for sure, where he has 34 points Klefbom had last year, and we don't know how bad his health situation may get for them. So it could be tough.
Look for also, I think, Nugent Hopkins. Mac, I probably think by the end of the month he will be signing a long-term deal, probably in the vicinity of $6.5 million times 8 years. That's what those are the numbers that are being bantered right now between Edmonton and Nugent Hopkins, and that's a nice 1-2-3 punch, don't you think? Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and McDavid. At least that gives them a chance to outscore their opponents.
And Yamamoto is starting to come on. And look, I love Nugent Hopkins. I think he's become one of those complete players. And whoever he plays with, whether it's Draisaitl and he, or Connor, McDavid and he, it's a really good line. And they have the big 3 there. They still have got a ways to go to continue to build the group. Right now, it was unfortunate that the cap issues hurt them, because if they would have got Markstrom done and added another defenseman, Barry's an okay to pick up. Look, Barry may rebound and have a big year at 3.75 in a 1-year deal. That's a great deal. He may rebound and get back to where he was a couple of years ago. They need that desperately, but there's still not enough depth there, especially with Klefbom's situation up in the air.
Anything else out there you want to discuss league-wide? Anything you want to get off your chest?
What about Montreal? I think we got to hit on Montreal. First thing, by the way, I heard today, and you got to tell me if this is accurate, that Fleury in Vegas, who we've talked a ton about, was really pursued heavily by Chicago, and he decided he was not taking himself or his family to Chicago. Have you heard that?
Well, Mac, it's interesting because it's funny because he got a chance to put his list in, right?
Yeah.
The 10 teams that he would not go to.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really study the National Hockey League today, it's not hard to figure out what teams could use you and what teams can't. So
Exactly.
although it's only a 10-team list, you could pretty much strike off everybody if you wanted to. So,
Right.
whether or not Chicago was on his list or not, I don't know. I don't have access to that, but it made for an interesting discussion to understand, first and foremost, he didn't want to leave. Even
No.
after all of this, even after the tweet, he made it abundantly clear. He had a one-on-one in the Athletic that said, "I want to retire, basically a Vegas Golden Knight. I want to stay here." Somebody's listening to that, and I would assume it's the owner.
Oh,
So
for sure.
there's a reason why he's still there, and now the tune has changed somewhat from from being a top priority to deal with our goaltending issues to now we're going to go with Fleury and Leonard. That's a change of direction that a lot of people didn't see during the Stanley Cup final.
That was a change of direction, and I used to change directions too when my owner told me what to do. They're one
No
guy
question.
you really listen. They're
No
one guy
question.
you really listen to.
The only-
So here's the challenge: Vegas has to win.
Yeah.
Vegas has to win.
Yeah.
And that is an uncomfortable feeling when you have to win. And I don't mean win in the regular season. I mean win.
So you brought up Montreal. The other Canadian team that we didn't touch on is Winnipeg. And I've probably, going back to my Sportsnet Hockey Central at noon, I saw Patrick Laine getting traded 2 years ago, Mac. People would say that I was nuts when I talked about that. But you could read tea leaves pretty quickly with the salary cap. And you can also see when they start committing those dollars to others that it's not leaving much of a pie for Patrick Laine. It was inevitable that on some nights, if this guy's only playing 12 minutes a night, he's not a top 3 go-to guy for that organization, which is fine. You can only put your money in so many places, but there wasn't a lot left for Patrick Laine. It was inevitable that this guy was leaving Winnipeg. It hasn't happened yet, but it's still in the works. It's
such a tough deal to make. And I mean, I got to believe Columbus freed up money. I know they're trying to protect themselves on Dubois in case he gets an offer, but Laine had to be in their mix a little bit. But how do you make a deal for Laine if you're Columbus unless you're giving up a Werenski? That to me, you're certainly not going to get it done for Savard and Atkinson and some of these guys. I mean, this is a top-notch winger, and a lot of teams need scoring. So it's not an easy deal to make. So Winnipeg still have some work to do. Stastny comes in for a year, gives them their number 2 centerman. That'll help Laine continue to score and maybe make him easier to move or a bigger deal for him. But right now, Winnipeg still have some work to do on that blue line to be a contending team.
Have we, last time we talked, Taylor Hall was not a Buffalo Sabre.
Seriously.
Does that shock you?
Well, it shocked me. And it shouldn't shock me because people say, well, he wanted to play with Eichel. He wanted to, this and that. I mean, come on. He's in Buffalo because he couldn't get the deal he wanted somewhere else. I think Columbus may have been in the mix, and he wasn't probably going to go there, and the money wasn't good enough. I think it was the best deal he had, and I think he had to. He took it because it was $8 million and it was 1 year, and I think that there was limited options for him. I know lots of teams would have been interested, but the price was a lot lower. I heard it could have been as low as $5 million in some places. That as high as people would go. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not. You're not.
Yeah.
And that's where it's gone with some of these guys. And I mentioned Hoffman earlier.
Big time.
They want him. They want him. They're making offers for $3 million. It's not. It's not where the market was as early as 12 months ago.
No, and look, then we talk Montreal and what they did and the money they put out and the term they put out, and you're saying, okay, do we like what Montreal did? I like Anderson, but
I like
he's been
Anderson
hurt.
too, and I think it's a good gamble for
Right.
the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, it is. He's got to stay healthy. I don't know if he'll ever be a 27 goal scorer again. I don't think he will, but he's still a big, strong, power guy. And I know it went south on him in Columbus contract negotiations and never really recovered, and then injuries. But I think they desperately, like, I didn't like their number one. They didn't have a number one line. They didn't have a number one line to me. They had a bunch of second and third liners is what they have there. So they had to improve. He gives them size in the wing. Toffoli is an interesting guy for me. Nick, I'm not sure how much he's got left in the tank. He played pretty well in Vancouver. I'm not a huge Toffoli fan, and they gave him term and they gave him money. And look, Toffoli's had a great career. He's not an old guy, but he something makes me a little nervous on Toffoli. Edmonton's a good pickup. So Montreal and Allen in goal gives them stability in the blue line or in net. So I mean, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good run for Berge for me.
I didn't think I was going to put you to work this much. That's a really good effort on your part from Ohio. Where's the RV? Can I interest you in putting? Hold on for a second. Can I get you to repaint the RV with the cover of my book and then travel all over the U.S.?
Yeah. Yes, I would consider doing that for a fee. But listen to this. I'll tell you where the RV is. It is at the Mercedes dealership with a couple of recalls being just cleaned up on it, and wanted to make sure we hit the road. So I've got a friend that's not the like service manager at Mercedes. I'm not happy about it. I am not happy about it.
I hope it's like the radio knob or something. Not anything with that engine.
By the way, I got to tell you one final story. I'm walking down the main street in Worthington, Ohio, which is a little community we lived just outside of Columbus. I'm walking down the street, a little exercise walk yesterday. I look into my old barber shop, and I just sort of glanced in because it was sort of a sports memorabilia barber shop. And then I just keep walking by, and thinking, okay, so it's 12 years since I've been in there, and I hear this guy, "Hey, Mac, you're not coming in to talk to us or what?" So my old barber, I go in and sit with him for 20 minutes and we chat about it. And he said, I used to meet you in the bars. And he said, all the boys, they'll all be giving you a hard time. All I ever wanted to do was to cut your hair on that damn Zamboni. So anyway, we had a great chat and a great visit. So good to be back in Columbus.
We had Max Domi on for a nice one-on-one. And I told him, Mac, that you should talk to Mac, Max and Mac. Yeah. Sounds like a radio show or our next Real Kyper at Noon segment.
Ideas on that next radio show. We got you locked. As the 29-year-old director telling you what to do, I have it all locked down here. I'm happy that you brought up Max. I was about to cut in.
You're a bigger pain in the ass than any of the guys at Sportsnet were.
I told Max that any of those bars that are dark and you don't really want to be noticed, he knows where all of them are.
Oh no, big time. The old Bag of Nails right on High Street.
Well, good luck on your extended trip. I hope Mercedes-Benz gets your RV back in time. Where are you headed next?
We're going to head down to Cincinnati for the weekend, see my daughter, and then we're going to head on Tuesday. We're going to head to Colorado, and I just got a funny feeling the internet is not going to be great in the Utah and Colorado mountains. So we'll see.
Hopefully we're going to find you, and we're going to bug you some more.
So, Doug, what's on the agenda? Are you going to Zion National Park? Are you going to the Arches in Utah? Those are beautiful places. Yeah.
We're going to hit the five national parks in Utah, and also do a little Grand Canyon. So, and then we'll come back south through southern Utah. Then we'll come back through Texas, the Alabama coast, back to Florida. We'll get back to Florida late November. So we're kind of excited about it.
A winery too.
Hey, listen. Oh no, we hit the winery. So Jill and I stopped at the winery the other night in Niagara on the Lake, and oh my God, great wine, and you stay right at the winery. So we've had a great little trip. But I mean, hey, it's retirement, man.
You deserve it.
No, not really. But anyway, I'm okay with it.
Hey, Doug, I'll tell you what. When you're in Utah, take your time at those places. I live in Colorado,
Oh.
as you know, and there is nothing in the state of Colorado that compares to Zion and the Arches. It's just so beautiful. And if you come south, you have to check out the Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs. It's crazy out here this time of year. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, we're excited about it. We're excited.
Good stuff. And for the people in chat, Max Domi
let you
interview
go.
is coming tomorrow. Really had a great time talking with him. It was, when Kyper said, hey, we got Max coming on the program, I thought it would be like a normal ho-hum 15, 20-minute conversation. This guy was so generous with his time, hung out with us for like 45 minutes, an hour. Cannot wax poetic enough about the human that Max was for us. So a big shout out to Max. Big thanks.
Max is a great kid. He's a great kid, no doubt about that. We coached him in the prospect game, Nick. Remember in Halifax?
I do.
And he was on my team. We kicked your ass again. Max was a big part of me beating you again.
You didn't have to throw that in.
Okay. Okay, but take care.
And I've got a few of I got a few stories about his dad in my book. And
I can't wait to read the book. I just can't wait to read this.
Max took after his mom's side of the family.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I'm not saying that to the old man to his face. So
no.
Saying that to Ty.
You'll be in a headlock taking uppercuts for the next 7 minutes if you say that within an arm's length of Ty Domi.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, one final thing I have to compliment you on.
Oh, gosh.
I watched your fight against Tony Twist the other night, and I'm serious. You ended up on top of Twister. I was shocked.
Are you
by
nuts?
That. You battled that fight. You battled in that fight pretty good.
I held on for my dear life.
I know, but you did pretty well. I was proud of you.
Well, you know what that's called? It's called,
survival.
Yeah, and, it's called taking your lumps. That's all.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was good.
Okay,
pal. Man.
Really appreciate it. Safe travels.
Anytime.
Wear a mask, okay? Everywhere you go, wear a mask.
Just a minute. Hold on.
Where's your mask?
Hold on. Okay, see you, Kyper. Take care.
See, where was that our whole career? I would have loved to muzzle you a lot earlier in your career.
That was me every Friday getting my paycheck.
Doug MacLean, everybody from Columbus, Ohio.
Take care, man.
Take care. Wow. I thought the show was going to go only about, 30, 40 minutes, and look at us stretching this thing right out. Thank you to Doug MacLean, and thank you to Perry Lefko, co-writer, co-author of Nick Kypreos' Undrafted. Big portion of this show was about the book. What I want to do is come back soon and talk about other portions of the book as well. You know, Mark Messier, I make it abundantly clear in this book, had such a big influence in my life, and a lot of his life lessons I still carry with me as a 54-year-old man. So I am going to try to track down Mark Messier, maybe a few of my teammates, just to discover more things about our run in 1994. Also, from the media side, the buildup between Sportsnet and TSN and the cable wars. I want to get in that talk as well. So look for that in the next few weeks. But like I said before, because it's the off season, we're not going daily anymore, but we are around, and we want to bring you some news, opinion, and maybe a couple of experts from Undrafted. So as Jordan goes, as Michael Bannock Jr. goes here, as far as I'm concerned, as always, thank you so much for being a part of Real Kyper at noon, and we'll see you real soon.